Ladies and gentlemen, another fantastic episode of The Unicorn Whisperer with Imole Ashogbon, founder of Luminous Consulting's previous HR leader at companies like Coca-Cola, here to talk a little bit about his rise on LinkedIn to over 40,000 followers as the Sultan of the infographic, the master of visual information. Imole, it's great to have you on the podcast. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. You have a great audience and you have great content. That's how I found you, as the Headcount ROI doc. So for those who don't know, I run Headcount 365, a software about unifying HR and finance with the headcount data. And that we jammed on that for a while, maybe like 3-4 months ago. But great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me this early on a holiday. Excited to talk to you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a privilege. I do not take it for granted. I see some of your recordings, some of your stuff fantastic. So I regard it as an honor to share your platform with you. Yes, we connected on the ROI. That was a couple of months ago.
Yep.
And it was then that was about 40,000 followers. Now I'm over 53,000 followers on Yes.
What a meteoric rise it would be described in U.S. news. So let's talk about it, right? So one, I took a look at your background. It looks like you prioritize education. It looks like you've been just laser focused on becoming a master of your craft, which is one side of, I think, such a rise. The other side is the ability to consolidate and disseminate the information from complex to simple and to produce something that's not only easy to follow along, but interesting to follow along for all skill levels. And I think that that's kind of just been something I've been super interested about. But before we get into it, let's talk a little bit about you.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get to where you are today? This podcast is about educating those who are at the earlier stages of their career, how to get to the later stage of their career with the best chances of success. So what was your path? How did you get here? And let's dive into the special things that got you those meaningful jumps.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. How did I get here? I mean, I started my HR journey over 15 years ago. I think while on campus, I was a student leader, and also I was also active in the religious community. So I was always leading, influencing my own little way. And once I finished university, most people will go into ministry or go into certain things. For me, that wasn't my path. I knew that wasn't my path. So I started asking questions, and I remember speaking to a mentor, and at the end, I discovered that HR was very close to what I was doing. It was almost a natural part for me. Interestingly, the same mentor got me my first job, and the rest is story. In fact, I worked with him in 2 different companies. He's now in the UK, and he brought me into HR. He's been instrumental in my HR journey. And once I got into HR, I just did not stop, because it just keeps unfolding. The various layers of HR, keeps unfolding to me. Close to 9 years ago, we decided to move to Canada. I was an HR manager back then with one of the biggest security and tech company in Nigeria. And then I decided to move to Canada. I didn't find an HR job for the first 6 months. It was terrible. I considered pivoting, but I knew I could not pivot. HR was my HR was my thing. And then I continued, For me, my journey has been people-centric, right? I believe the greatest impact we can have is in people, ability to influence the positive trajectory of people's life. And HR for me has given that opportunity. If you check my content sometime last 2 years, a big part of it was always to individuals, their career and all of that. But sometime late last year, I decided, you know what, the biggest impact you can make is on organizational leaders and organizations, because their decisions has a trickle-down effect, right? And of course, in that path, people would learn what they need to learn. So I decided to go into just talk more about HR and HR, strategic HR. And even my organization, all we do is HR. We have a training arm, we train HR professionals, we have a coaching arm, and of course, the consulting piece to it. So my journey as in HR has been an interesting one, inundated by a lot of learning, relearning, and the realities of the world of work.
So you and I are similar in that we took a hallmark job, which I'm interested. So mine was Uber. I started my career and worked at a bunch of companies and then got a job at Uber. And then that was able to propel my consulting company. I feel very similarly that even though you did have good brand recognition through the security business, the Coca-Cola role was an instrumental change, right? That brand equity of getting in there. Not only did you go to Coca-Cola, you had multiple promotions through. So I think what folks are interested in, especially as they're starting their careers, they get the skills, they get the education, they go get some practical experience, and then they're going for that big break, right? So that may or may not have been Coca-Cola for you. I might be, assuming. How did you get the Coca-Cola job? And then how did you get promoted through that Coca-Cola job? Like what worked from your experience to go get that job? And then how did you rise up so quickly across the 3 years that you were there?
Beautiful. Thank you for that question. So the way I say it is, how do you get Coca-Cola job? For any job or any organization, I think it's two critical things. Number one, competencies, right? Your ability to know your job, know it very well, be passionate about it, and your passion must come true. So for me, one of the ways my passion has come true or comes true is through my learning. Right. I mean, I invest a lot. My family as a whole, I invest a lot in learning, in education. My wife has 3 master's degree, you know. For instance, I have one. I'm on my path to the second one. I took my time to learn. I think about 8 years ago, I started asking the question, what does the future of HR look like? I started asking the question, what would the CHR of the future, what would they be looking at for in talent? That led me to change management, into talent analytics, talent management, right? That led me into big data in HR. And so I gave myself to that. So I think that was instrumental. It's a critical one. But the other one is community. The other part is community. Or let me put it this way, networking, right? People trust people. People believe in people, right? And in your journey, you must know that while you're investing on yourself, it's critical that you invest on your network. They say that your network determines your net worth, right? And so for me, Coca-Cola job was a referral. I wasn't even looking for it. I was working in the airports as an HRBP in G4S Aviation. Then it was a good job. And then, my community or the friendships I've made, they saw the value and they saw the opportunity. I say, hey, more like this is an opportunity. Would you be interested in? I know, yes, it's Coca-Cola. And so that same element was also what helped my growth and progress in Coca-Cola. As an HR professional, HR is not about HR. HR is about the business. And so the critical question you must ask as an HR professional is, what systems, framework, or structures am I putting in place or enabling that will make or that is making the business win in the marketplace? And so as a manager in Coca-Cola, I was managing just one location, just one, what do you call it? I was managing BC, right? And that was a key question I was always asking. How do I enable success? How do I make my managers or my directors sleep better at night? How do I sharpen the processes and systems that we have such that the pain point of the business is being addressed as a business partner? I'm co-creating value. And so that was what I was always doing. I look for the big problems, right? That impact the business most, the bottom line most. And it's always around people. And that's where HR shines the most. Find one or two business problems. Sit down with it. Beyond the transactional everyday thing, which is inevitable, but find one or two business problems per season. Get the data, get the context, and then begin to create solutions around it. Tons of people have done it, so you're not going to be the first. And find co-creators, understand the stakeholder landscape, find the ones that can co-create it with you. You would always win. So I think that's been my strategy, and that's what has been helping me. That's what helped me through Coca-Cola and all the recognition and the movements and promotions. That's been my approach.
I like it, and it draws a line through a lot of the guests that I've had on the show in the past, which is first, be good at the job, right? So, like, be a master of your craft, learn how to apply your solution to the business, understand the problems, and solve them, right? Like, so the core competency of being good at any job still applies to HR. The most important thing that you brought up that's, I think, clear in the way that you've conducted your business after doing so at Coca-Cola, from 40 to 53,000 followers since the first time we chatted, is focusing on the network, right? I think you're in a position now of education, of kind of that person doing the connections versus leveraging the connections now, which is, if you're not following Imole on LinkedIn, give him a follow. I'm telling you, the content is some of my favorite. So it's just really good to see you out there kind of giving back to that community who helped you get into something like Coca-Cola. So now that you're in your business, you're advising, you're making the connections. I think one of the biggest things that I like about your background or your style is that you have this focus on driving people towards strategic HR, which I presume is the application of the solutions that are in your toolbox to what the business is asking you to do. The things that got you promoted at Coca-Cola are the things that you're harping on in your content and in your education for the community that follows you. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about that this idea of the strategic HR.
Yeah.
I worked with a few folks in the UK who are focused on moving people from recruiters to talent partners, right? So they are a little bit more consultative. But I'm interested from your perspective, strategic HR,
Mm.
what's the difference between what you see most HR folks going after and the strategic HR pivot that you focus on in your content?
Beautiful. Thank you. That's a fantastic question. And I'll start by the other part of the question. What do I see most HR folks go for? Most HR folks I see they operate at the operational and the tactical dimension of HR. You know, the policies and the policing aspect. Rightfully so, it's a critical part of the business. But strategic HR takes it to another level, right? Being truly strategic means that, okay, I say that strategic HR is not about sitting at the table. It's about owning the conversations that builds the table, right? So a lot of people think HR strategies are metrics or dashboard. No, it's not. It's about connecting insights to decisions. Business leaders are always making decisions, right? Who to invest in, what business to invest, how to expand, how to navigate this difficult. As a strategic HR, what you're really doing is you're connecting these insights that you have into people, to systems, to their decision, so they can make an holistic decision. So I'll say that being strategic means moving from what the company is doing to why it must be done. So HR becomes powerful when it starts shaping outcomes, not reacting to it. A lot of HR professionals, we are reactive. We are reacting to the attrition. We are reacting to complaints and all of that. No. We need to say, what must we be as an organization? What must be done, right? And we begin to work back from there. We started with, what does the organization do? Because the critical thing we must understand is there's no HR strategy without business strategy. So we draw our strategy from organization strategy. But we must now ask those critical questions, right? Why it must be done, you know. So I say that when HR understand business ambition, and translates it into capabilities, then you're strategic.
What are it sounds like every time that you and I talk, whether it's this conversation or previous, it's a focus on the data. It's the execution is kind of that's what everyone expects. The strategic aspect is the value that you add on top of it. So what is the foundation of data or systems, or like when you're getting folks to make this transition into more of a proactive kind of recommendation for business needs approach, what's their foundation? What do they need to have set up? What partners do they take in setting it up? And how do you ensure somebody is just structurally set up for success?
Okay, so the first thing is curiosity. That's what I'll say. I mean, data is awesome. Data is important, but the first way to transition to become more strategic is to be reflective and seamless. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if you
Yes.
want to transition, for me, the realization changed everything. Because once you understand that talent is not just about capability, the next question is, how do I design HR to think and act strategically? How do I, as an individual, position myself to think and act strategically? It starts with that curiosity, those reflections. That is where your journey should start from. Because a strategic person is somebody that sees into the future and creates systems that helps you journey there. Data, the next level to it, ideally, I would like to say, go into data. You must understand data. You must understand what the numbers are saying. In fact, what data to collect and all of that. So that is critical. What data is important to the business? What data you can interpret, you can convert? What data can enable decision making? That is critical. But the other part I'll say to it is that boldness and that confidence. One of the folks and coaches, the director in a big engineering firm, one of the things she said to me 2 weeks ago is that she's now more confident to make presentations and stand up for and against the business leaders. She's always had those data, right? But at some point, she started asking better questions with that data and being able to link it to the business decision. So I say to you that, of course, where you need to start from is curiosity. You need to be curious. You need to be hungry. Why is this business existing? This business says they want to sell 10 million units of this. What role do I play to enable that to happen? Or they want to provide this service to these people in this way. So you must start with curiosity. Be reflective in your thoughts. Ask the difficult questions that directly ties to the results that the business wants to achieve, especially the unseen results. For instance, think about personal analysis, for instance. As an HR professional, you have to look at what is the political atmosphere? What is the economic atmosphere? What is the social atmosphere? What are the factors influencing talent in the market? My talent pool. What is happening in the economy that may influence my business? And how do I allow that to shape my decision or shape what we are doing in HR? If you are able to do the external and the internal analysis, you're able to go to the business with solid data and information that they know that if they don't do, they are going to be in trouble. I say start with being curious, be reflective with seamless. Then begin to look at what are some of the competencies I need to develop. Data analytics is a critical one. Relationship management is another critical one. Business acumen. You can't be strategic if you don't understand the language of the business. You can't be strategic if you're an HR person, you don't go to the floor, you don't know how your company is making money, you've not started yet. You don't know how they are losing money. You don't know why. Because you must know all of that and tie it to the people part. So for me, you start from there. And then another critical thing that's helped is mentors. Dave Ulrich is one of my mentors, and I've had opportunity to interact with him over and over. He interacts with my content, which is huge. I studied David Ulrich 12 years ago. I got his book 9 years ago, 13 years ago. And so he has influenced and shaped my life so much. So look for people in that field who know what they're doing, right? And have some results to show, and follow them, follow their content, break it down, right? And you definitely would, your journey to being strategic is it becomes shorter every day when you follow the spot.
Yeah, some of the best career advice I ever had was find someone you want to be like and stand next to them.
Yes.
And it's always helped me because it's just whether you learn a skill or you learn the way they navigate that skill, you're able to then emulate the things that you like, develop the things that you would change, and you become your own version. It's the natural evolution of that. So you might as well start from a place of excellence, which is, that's how I've kind of grown my own career. But very interesting that you say. So it sounds like from you, the three things that folks need to understand when transitioning to strategic HR is like, first, start with curiosity. Second, the data isn't going to tell the story for you, right? You have to leverage the data to tell the story that you're then curious about. And then three, take partnership, take mentorship, whether it's with education, who's going to expand your skill and business acumen or give you a certain perspective that you didn't have before. Those are the things that you look for when making that transition. You start to unlock these things, which aren't necessarily what I found interesting. It's not necessarily another skill or tool, right? Like we're going to talk a little bit about AI in a minute, but it's not necessarily about that tool. That tool works for you, not the other way around. So you have to be able to leverage it. But interesting. So here's what I'm curious about. So you're very well educated as far as I would say the typical trajectory is you have a lot of different degrees from a lot of prestigious institutions. How much of that education was learning an HR skill versus learning some of these other things that are about whether it's the general business understanding or the executive side of things? Like, what was the most valuable part of pursuing a higher education as it relates to like making this change to strategic HR?
Beautiful. I think it's interwoven, right? But how much of this is, so I believe in I believe in divergence and convergence, right? I believe that for you to become, I don't even regard myself as a thought leader right now. I regard myself as somebody on the journey. I'm just more confident and bold than many people out there. Maybe that are more knowledgeable. So my journey is that of curiosity. So for me, investing in those education and those learning wasn't so much just about HR. It's about, I wanted to understand the world of work. I wanted to understand what certain people have understood for years and they've documented and they are teaching. I wanted to understand from a divergent point of view how things are doing. For instance, my MBA, I learned so much more beyond HR. I learned business, I learned marketing, I learned organizational psychology. And all of that put together helps you broaden your perspective. You can't be narrow-minded in your journey to strategy or being strategy. You can't be narrow-minded. You have to be broad-minded. You have to take in a whole lot of information, then sieve into those information what you need, right, to get to your next level. Sometimes we overthink it. We're thinking about 10 steps, 50 steps ahead. No, 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 no. Think about 10 steps in terms of where you want to go, but it's a step at a time, right? Knowledge is supposed to change you. It's supposed to give you perspective. It's so my idea is invest so much in learning, because what you don't know, what you know you will show. What you don't know will show you, right? And you are just limited by your knowledge. You can't act more than your understanding. Do you understand? So if you want to not just win in the world of HR, you want to exceed in this world, you have to give yourself to knowledge, right? And then the application of it, which is wisdom. And it also means you have to put yourself in scenarios and situations where you're tested, where those things are tested and you have opportunity to bring it forth. For instance, I went into consulting in business. Right now, I'm exploring the opportunities. I'm going to declare it later. But I could only journey to that point because I continuously learn. So for me, you have to just learn. What you know, you will show. What you don't know will show you, right? And the world we live in, years ago, they used to tell us that information changes every 2 years. Now it's at the speed of thought. Yes, it's at the speed of thought.
I like that.
Yeah.
Information changes at the speed of thoughts.
At the speed of thought. What
Yeah.
you're brewing on last year is obsolete right now, because somebody somewhere is, all they do all day is unpack it. All they do all day is see the application of it. So for me, the day you stop learning, you start dying, literally, right? The day. So I see learning, investing in education, investing in all of those things. And then another thing is it shows credibility. There are some assets you never have if you don't have some of those things. And there's also another layer to it. People sometimes they judge you first by the color of your skin before they listen to you or they see your stuff. So there are certain doors that you can't knock or you can't open except that credibility speaks for you objectively, right? You want to be competitive in this world in your chosen space. You have to be voracious about learning. You have to be hungry. You can't be lackadaisical about it. You can't be nonchalant. You have to go for the knowledge that you need that is critical for your next level. Because what you know, you will show. What you don't know will show you, right? And so that's why for me, knowledge is critical. And application of it is more important.
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting point. On the HR side, so the whole idea of unicorn talent, right? There's no degree in talent acquisition. So we're trying to give people the insights from those who have already achieved what folks are trying to achieve. And so, pursuing education, even if there's no degree in talent acquisition, there's a certain blue check mark for the younger generation. There's a certain credibility that comes along with that accomplishment that is more than either the skills or the network. And it's this idea that it's this globally recognized achievement that, in the recruiting space, when you look in the haystack of post-grad or advanced education, there are just more needles in that haystack, right? There's a lot more that may convert closer to what it is that you're looking for, just because the likelihood that somebody wouldn't be relevant because they've been in that zone is just so much lower. But it's a good point about what it does for credibility in the marketplace. I like that. I think we have to information at the speed of thought right now is, I think, just another way of saying AI. I'm curious to know, especially at the caliber of customer that you've had and the work that you've done in the past, right? How are you using it today, if at all? And how do you recommend people use it? How does that enter your conversation? What do you advise folks on the utilization of AI?
Okay, very good question. So AI, I'm a massive supporter of AI, right? Because for me, AI is an enablement, right? Is to enable. AI is to increase efficiency and effectiveness. And so I use AI on a daily basis. I'm subscribed to ChatGPT. I'm subscribed to some different platforms because it makes your life easier. Sometime early this year, we had to reduce up some of our head counts because AI could do what they were doing. You don't need a copywriter right now because AI can do that for you. All you need to do is to train the GPT on what you want to do or train whatever platform you're using, right? So I've seen AI also impact a lot. There's certain work I do for some clients as a subject matter expert, you know exactly the inputs and the outputs you're expecting. And there are a lot of models now that they are trained. It's robust, right? PhD level thinking. So I personally, I use AI a lot. I don't use gaps. I don't believe in that. I believe in curated thinking. I believe in context. I believe in deep engaging of the AI, because the more you do that, the more you get better outcomes from the AI. So the other part is use AI. Don't People are afraid of what they don't know. So leave that level of ignorance or that level of fear and move into it, right? And engage it, not from just people's perspective. Engage the AI has always been. Now it's just democratized. Now it's more available. You understand? When we talk to Siri, it was AI. When we get into our vehicle seats recognize. So AI has always been. AI will always be. AI is just now more accessible. The world as we know it is changing. And so if you must succeed in your trade or even HR, you must get into it. And I always say to people, I say, AI won't replace HR. It can never. But HR that doesn't understand AI will be replaced by leaders who do.
I
Right?
like that. I like
Yes.
that a lot. Yeah, I
Yes.
think I couldn't agree more. I see it happening live, either in my network or just by being on LinkedIn. I just see the way folks are changing. I partner with this company called Door 3 Talent. They actually are releasing how to create a policy for AI in this month's newsletter, so that people are embracing not only the utilization of HR, but there's this kind of safe space to use it within the company where everyone agrees what is the right way, what's the acceptable way that we are using this technology. Anything you're seeing from your customers about the utilization that's, from a compliance perspective, from a behavior perspective, that's you should be warning HR folks about, or that we want to kind of sound the alarm here of,
Yeah.
AI is coming, look out for its use in performance reviews in XYZ. What do you think?
What I'm seeing is there's a bit more, the reception towards AI is increasing, right? Last 2 years, last 3 years, a lot of organizations were, no, you can't use AI, you can't use ChatGPT. That is not a smart move. The smart move is to get in front of it, right? Because in actual sense, AI is not the threat. AI is not a threat. AI is a teammate, but it's only as intelligent as the human who guides it, right? So rather than saying no, guide it, or you understand it as an organization. So I'm seeing my clients using it from time to time more now. They're asking questions. How can we use it? Yes, there's a need for guardrails. There's a need for governance, right? It has the essence, and of course, even the curators are saying it, but the critical thing is, which I'm pushing to my clients and people I work with, I say, understand it. Don't be in the dark about it. Sit down to understand it. What are the guardrails we need to put in place? How is it going to make our work more efficient and effective? Right? How is it going to improve our systems, our deliverables? Then get in front of it. A lot of HR professionals are using AI to write job descriptions. You can't say people will not use AI to prepare for interviews or do their resumes, right? So you have to go a step above it to say, okay, what is the best way to assess candidates, for instance? What is the best way to use AI, to leverage AI? Again, another thing I'm seeing, and I'm saying here, is that the real risk of AI is not taking jobs, right? I said the real risk is it's organization adopting it without ethics or the empathy or the purpose. That's why I always say, please don't just accept it hook, line, and sinker, right? Understand the ethical dimensions and put those guardrails, right? And let the purpose be clear. Why are we using it? So I said that our job as HR is to humanize technology. Do you understand? Before technology, before before technology, before we technologicalize, if there's any word like that, humanity, bring the human part of it, because it's supposed to be an enablement. And that simply means that it means that you must set clear values and boundaries. You understand? At the end of the day, we have spent years measuring how fast AI can do a task. I say that the next question is, how does it change trust, creativity? Do you understand? Or decision quality? That's the realm we should be operating right now. AI should never lead. AI should learn from us how we lead and see the areas that can help us improve, or the areas that can help us make more effective as much as possible. So we have to get in front of it. You can't just jettison it. You can't just put it on the side. It's here to stay. And if that you like it or yes, if you choose to operate in the fear or operate in a protective angle, the world as we know it is changing. You will just be left behind.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've seen way too many news clips about folks disagreeing whether or not AI should lead, but I am on your team. Yeah, I think it's an enablement tool for us. I think everyone should have a structure for how they go about doing it. And you should agree with your company, hopefully upfront, about how to apply AI in different situations, particularly as it relates to the HR side. So, what we're covering this month is how to build a policy around utilization of AI, whether it's with candidates, hiring managers, or the HR process.
Yeah.
And we do it by trying to learn all of the different policies that exist today. We took principles from studies at different higher education AI studies, and we ingested them into the model to then help folks kind of create something that is bespoke to their company, but has the principles of good AI management. So I'll send it to you after this. You could check it out. You let me
Beautiful.
know what your
Yes.
feedback is.
Okay.
But look, it's great to talk to somebody with your experience, with your level of education, with your following, to kind of hear the thought process behind the skills, right? So some folks, when we're talking on this podcast, there's different aspects of what they're bringing to the table, but you're at this level of understanding the business to a degree where you can communicate it to others. And I think that that's the most exciting thing about following you on LinkedIn is I'm always learning something about the way that you've executed HR, not necessarily a specific individual task, but the way all of these tasks come together. So it's super exciting to kind of learn from you and talk live. Where can people find you? When you're looking for people to engage with you? I know LinkedIn, so I'll put a link down below for your LinkedIn, but where can people find you? Where do you learn from? What's your favorite book, your favorite person to follow? How do people engage with you after this?
Well, people can find me. Thank you, Eric. People can find me the way you find me on LinkedIn. I spend a whole lot of time on LinkedIn. There are certain people I follow, ingest their content on a regular, right? Dave Orich, forever and ever, is somebody that I admire. I'm working on a book right now. You'll most likely be the one forwarding the book, you know. And so for
Awesome.
me, is somebody that and another so fundamentally where you can find me is LinkedIn. I have Instagram. I don't put so much content there. Instagram is more video. I'm thinking of, doing all these snippets of video on Instagram and on TikTok. But LinkedIn is where you find me. In terms of books, read Hoffman and Ben Cashononchat. I think I pronounced it well. They wrote a book. It's called Talent Management, Growth Capability, and Renewal. That's a book you can read. I mean, if you're listening here, then Daniel Pink wrote Drive. That's another fantastic book. Then, of course, Dave Orich, Strategic HR. I have the book in my library there. Thinking Beyond the Function. That's also another book that is very good. Couple of books that are good. And the world of AI, the world is here. We're experiencing AI. There are a few books out there. Paul Doggerenti, something like that, wrote the Vi. So you can always check up that book. You always find me around books. I read a lot as much as possible. I love audiobooks. So I'm driving, I'm doing stuff, I'm reading. Then I think the biggest place you'll find me is engaging conversations like this, interactions with sound mind and people who are bold with their ideas and people who are not, who are very comfortable with divergence in a different opinion, right? I have a passion. I particularly detest people who are very tunnel minded, narrow minded, and their opinion is ultimate. No, I don't. You can't find me there. You'll find me where we will disagree, and it's okay. Let's disagree to agree. Let's disagree so I get your angle. I don't have to accept your position, but I have to learn it. I have to understand it. So you find me where very healthy conversations are happening. And you also find me with my family. That's also another place I love to be. Spend time with my kids, my wife, and in the HR community where I lead, I also try to spend some time there. So that's it.
Excellent. I love it. I'll invite you to the Unicorn Town Slack community. If people are interested in some Q&A, you can always answer them there. But the LinkedIn will be in the link below. I'll also put some links to the books and the content that you mentioned. Always excellent to get another perspective on the podcast. And I love the conversation. Thanks for joining me.
Yes, thank you, Eric. And I must say you're doing an amazing job. I mean, if anybody, something people need to know about you, you are a relentless go-getter. That's you. You don't give up. You just have that relentless spirit, and that tells me that there's no limitations for you. Just dream it, just pursue it. You're gonna achieve it. So, thank you for being an amazing guy. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you
Of
for
course.
inviting me. Thank you for the platform.